It's
Hi.
Julia and
Colin Holt.
And we're here today. We're going to talk to you about a story called The Road to Emmaus. And it isn't a super popular story, so I don't have a kid's Bible version of it. So I'm going to read you the story from the grown-up Bible, and Colin here is going to help me talk about it. So this story takes place on Easter morning, and it's two people, and we don't necessarily know who they are. The author of the story, Luke, doesn't tell us who they are. We find out one is named Cleophas, but we don't know who the other one is. Colin, what happened the morning of the first Easter?
Jesus rose from the dead.
Jesus rose from the dead, and the tomb was empty, right? So let's listen. This is the first time that people are seeing Jesus. Are you ready to listen? Now, on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking to each other about everything that had happened. And what do you think when they say everything that had happened? What do you think they mean by everything that had happened? What had just happened that was...
Jesus rose from the dead.
And before that, what happened right before that?
He got crucified.
He got crucified. So they're talking about that. And a man came up among them, and that man was Jesus. But they didn't know it. He asked them, "What are you talking about as you walk along?" These two men, they stopped, and their faces were downcast and sad. And one of them, named Cleopas, asked him, Are you only a visitor in Jerusalem and do not know these things that have happened in these days?" "What things?" Jesus asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet and powerful in the word and deed before God and all people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was going to be the one to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place." So what happened on the third day after Jesus died? What happens on the third day?
He rose from the dead.
Yeah. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning and they didn't find his body. They came and they told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and they found it just as the women had said, but him they did not see. And then Jesus, who they don't actually know is Jesus yet, says to them, "How foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Christ have to suffer these things and then enter the glory?" And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them all that was said in the scriptures concerning himself. Now, Colin, let's pretend that you and I are back at that very first Easter, the day that Jesus rose from the dead. Would that be a pretty crazy thing to believe? That somebody...
I would probably faint.
Right.
Or be like, "Oh, you're Jesus."
It'd be hard to believe. So these guys aren't sure. But then as Jesus and the men approached the village to which they were going, Jesus acted as if he were going farther. But the two men urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. Was that nice of those men to offer Jesus a place to stay?
Yeah, like, if I was a homeless person and these two people just walked up and say, like, "Do you want to come to our home so you can have some rest or some food or some water or some whatever you want?" Not exactly
You would
whatever.
like that, right?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
And that's a sign of being a good Christian, is offering to help others.
Yeah.
So
Just like Jesus.
Right. So Jesus went to stay with them. And when he was at the table with them, he took the bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and began to give it to them. Now, what does that remind you of?
That reminds me of when you go to church and then you, like, have communion. You get these bread pieces, you dip it in the wine, and nom nom.
Right. He took the bread, he gave thanks, and he broke it. And when did he do that for the first time? When was the first time Jesus did that?
On the third day.
Not when he rose, but... What supper was he did it at?
Just before he got crucified.
Right, at the Last Supper. So these guys got a big clue. And you know what happened? Then their eyes were open and they recognized them, but he disappeared from their sight. So let's talk about, how do you think the men felt when they were first walking on the road to Emmaus? Do you think that they were happy or sad or confused? So this is Easter Day.
They were confused because they were like, how did he get out of the temple when he was dead?
Well, did they believe 100% that he could rise from the dead yet?
They were like, someone stole him, oh no!
Do you think that they were sad that he'd been crucified?
Yeah.
I think so too.
And then kind of worried.
Right.
Or
do you think
question how did he disappear?
Do you think that their moods changed when they recognized him?
How
do you think they felt?
Like, oh, that's Jesus, but then he disappears.
Right. So they said, were our hearts not burning within us while he talked to us on the road and opened the scriptures to us? They got up at once and returned to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and those with them assembled together. Now, do you know who the 11 are?
No.
The 11 apostles. Because there used to be 12, right?
Like his people, like fishers of men?
Yeah, his fishers of men. But there was one that wasn't there anymore.
Oh, yeah, it was the guy that kissed him on the cheek and then ran.
Judas. So there were 11. So these two men went to him and they said, "It's true, the Lord has risen and he has appeared." When the two told of what had happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when they broke the bread. So now everybody's so excited because they got to see Jesus.
Wait, what? Only 2 people got to see
Right,
Jesus.
but then they went and told other people,
and
right?
And then those 11 told other people, and then those people told other people, then it just keeps on going on.
Right. So, even though it was a sad time and people weren't sure what was going to happen and they were worried, they got good news, didn't they?
Yeah.
Jesus gave
them
them
they were all like glum, and then they were like, oh, Jesus is alive.
Right. Jesus gave them a sign and showed them he was present, right? So what we need to do in these days of Easter, guys, is we need to look for Jesus's presence, and we need to support each other, and we need to live our lives like Jesus and be good Christians and be helpful to one another. So this week, between church this week and next week, I want you guys to think of ways that you can show Jesus' love to others and to be a good Christian and celebrate this Easter season. Do you know what one of the things that we get to start saying again now since it's the Easter season? We get to say, Hallelujah! Because we didn't get to say it during Lent.
Hallelujah!
So, hallelujah, friends. Jesus is risen. I hope you guys have such a good week. And keep your eyes open for signs of Jesus in everyday life, okay?
And be good Christians.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.